Morning, Ganesh. How are you?
Ma'am, should we start? Should we start?
Please go ahead,
Yeah.
Shiv.
Yeah, dear all, I, Shivam Sharma, and entire team of Pusa Krishi welcome you all in 10th Agri India Meet. You know, in September 2017, an eye-catching event just was flourishing on internet, and that too very much unbelievable. But at Hands-Free Hectare, which is an experimental farm run by a couple of researchers at Harper's Adam University in United Kingdom, they have completed the harvest of spring barley from world first robotically fully autonomous farm. Everything from start to finish, including sowing, fertilizing, collecting samples, harvesting, was done by autonomous vehicles at the farm. Now, in May 2021, Charles Stewart University and Food Agility has partnered for Australia's first fully automated commercial farm, which will demonstrate the future of farming through robotics and artificial intelligence. In agriculture, nobody has really managed to solve the problem of autonomy. It has been really said by a great mechatronics researcher. Today, we are glad to have our esteemed panelists from across the world who are really doing wonderful research on the subject of agri-robotics. Without delay, I'm happy to invite Dr. Neeru Bhushan, our CEO of Pusa Krishi and Principal Scientist of Technology Transfer Division of IARI, for formally welcoming all our panelists and taking Agri India Meet further. Ma'am, please.
Thank you, Shiv. And distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen, along with the young startup brigade and entrepreneurs, a very good evening to all of you. And today we have the panelists from the globe. And thank you so much for accepting our invitation, and our listeners are very keen to hear from you this emerging topic. I, on behalf of ICAR-IARI and on my personal behalf, welcome you all in our 10th Agri India Meet, which is focusing on agri-food and robotics towards farming. The series of Agri India Meet was initiated last year with the launch of Agri India Hackathon, which was inaugurated by Honorable Agriculture Minister Shri Narendra Singh Tomarji on 31st December 2020. As now we have 24 winners after evaluating more than 6,000 applications and mentoring them for continuously 3 days, organizing 900 meetings. So now we are giving these 24 winners space in our incubation program. To apprise you all, we have completed 9 Agri India Meets covering a broad spectrum of sessions like precision agriculture, supply chain, investor and industry connect, stories from the startups, future of food, and related topics for benefit of agri startups and agri enthusiasts who are actually willing to do wonders in agriculture while keeping technology and farmers at the center. And if anyone wishes to see the previous session, you can visit our Pusa Krishi YouTube channel. And coming to the today's session, which is really very apt for today, when we think of technology or robotics deployment in Indian farming community, frankly, we see a very slow diffusion rate. While several data-oriented digital solutions have made their way to the farms at home in India, the adaptation of robotics automation-oriented solutions remains at the nascent stage. Now we have reduced to the robotics at the 3 stages, like the seeding, planting, and harvesting. While these robotics, these are very, very useful because they reduce the drudgery at the farmers level, but whether they can be economical viable, whether because our land system, because our land holding are very, very less, paying capacity of the farmers are very less, and education and the technology adoption rate are very less. But nevertheless, this is the need of the hour, and there are some existing technology has been tried at the level of the farmers, but the challenge remains in commercialization of these transformative solutions. And the region can be the different geographical conditions and that I have already mentioned. But despite these challenges, there exists an unquestioned need for use of robots in Indian agriculture space. And we have seen that after getting agri-tech a lot of push in the market. There are many robotic startups who are trying to make a difference, but still a lot of technology is at a nascent stage, which requires extensive field validation and trial. So, friends, today I'm glad to have such experts and international panelists, that too of Indian origin, serving abroad and working in the field of varied experience from computer vision to robotics, mechatronics, autonomous farming sensors, and human to human robotics. I'm happy and delighted to welcome Dr. Bora from United States Department of Agriculture, Dr. Sharda from Kansas State University, Dr. Aneesh from Netherlands, Ms. Richa from REInvent Robotics Denmark, and our own startup from India, Mr. Manohar, founder of Grobomac. And going forward, I'm also very happy to welcome our beloved and most supportive Dr. Indramani Mishraji, Head Division of Agriculture Engineering at IARI, whose encouraging words always support the technology and innovation ecosystem. Today, he'll be your facilitator for the session, and his positive energy would create meaningful discussion for today. Without the support of our faculty at IARI, this mega Agri India Meets series will not be in a reality. On these lines, I am happy to introduce Dr. Kushwaha, Principal Scientist IARI, will be the moderator for today's Agri India Meet. So going forward, let me invite Dr. Indramani Mishra to throw some light on the subject with his opening remarks and to carry forward this Agri India Meet. Dr. Indramani.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And I congratulate whole team of ZTM PPD under the leadership of Dr. Neeru Bhushan, which is doing wonder, and every forum and every platform I speak with. I'm proud of to be part of this program. Thank you very much for giving me opportunity to meet me once again, my friends Dr. Bora and Dr. Ajay, and all different these wonderful speakers of today's program. My dear friends, Indian agriculture is diverse and complex, and that was mentioned by Madam, that difference in agro climatic zones, different in socio-economic status, different in plateau. So northeast is there, tribal region is there. Anything you can grow, any crop you can grow, any season you can invent here. So I personally feel that this diversity and complexity is the strength of Indian agriculture, because this diversity and complexity provides platform that skill is important and agrobot is also important. So this is why if somebody says that oh, this technology is not, why you are developing this technology, this may not be fit for it. That means he doesn't understand the diversity and complexity of Indian agriculture. So this is always this is one thing I have to emphasize. And another thing is that agriculture is so important today for India and for the world. Particularly see that during COVID situation, everything stopped at Bora, but agriculture was moving. And that gave see the impetus. And I always emphasize that this during the month of April 2020, when the situation there, almost worst, and the production stopped. At that time also, tractor sale was going on, and even export, if you see. And the tractor manufacturing in June 20 was more than the tractor production in May, June 2019. So that means agriculture is very, very important. And this year harvest prediction was 303 million ton, but actually we going to harvest 305 million ton. We showed the, even Kharif showing was maximum, ever maximum, despite COVID situation. So all these things speak that agriculture of India is very, very important, and things are coming from top. See, the Prime Minister of India on different forums, he has been speaking that, modern agriculture, that robotics, drone, biotechnology and others, they will lead Indian agriculture. Remember, only if you recall yesterday's speech of our beloved Prime Minister, he was interacting with 100, centrally funded R&D institutions chiefs. And his words were that, this decade is going to be very, very important, and technology led agricultural development is going to the reality. And he termed this decade, my dear friends, as decade. And he said that if you are not able to harvest this decade, you will be, left far behind. So for all of us, this is going to be very, very important decade. And agriculture is going to be led by engineering, and agriculture, actually future agriculture is going to be engineering agriculture. This one thing we have to understand. And second thing, he in same talk, and I was very much enthralled after listening to the talk. And he emphasized that 5 major areas need futuristic technology. And so robot also for Indian agriculture, still I consider that it's a futuristic technology, and it must be given proper emphasis. The 5 areas which he emphasized is education, is healthcare, then coming third one is agriculture, fourth one is defense, and fifth one is cyber technology. Remember now, agriculture is bracketed with these 5 top most important areas for this country, and the message is coming from none less than top person of the country, Prime Minister of India, not day before yesterday, not earlier, only yesterday, to remember. So this is the call which we have to understand, and we have to move forward. And coming to all these, new technologies, cutting edge technologies, I want to emphasize, Madam Neeru knows that Government of India is very, very serious, and that's why under this different schemes, and particularly the scheme under RKBY, lot of support to startups and entrepreneurs is being given. This is, a very helping and salubrious atmosphere to encourage entrepreneurs and startups is being prepared in the country. And through our REIs and UPJA programs, which are still on, you cannot believe when I talk to my US friends that in India, we are providing grant of 5 lakh and 25 lakh to persons, someone who is even just educated. It is not, there's no qualification. One Sardarji from Punjab, we used to fill his farm, and now he is inventor, he is, he got 25 rupees grant and progressing. Similarly, so many people. So, and then new BTech students and MTech students, they are coming and they are seeking career. They are the, career of future agriculture, in my opinion. And this is there we need your help. And in the starters, my Dr. Neeru was mentioning, and I'm the evaluator in those, all those applications. So good project and proposals are coming in robotics area. They need advice from the Indian diaspora, which has been helping, and we need your sustained and continuous help. Coming to robotics, definitely it's a very important technology. In certain area, we have already started. Even in our division, we have developed robot for seeding and robot for weeding. And if you scan, most of the robot for single operations are for weeding operations, then picking operations, then harvesting operations. Dr. Bora will show those robots how they pick beautifully the fruits, and all those things you will see. This is one area. Then multiple operations also we have to think, because technology, any technology, one thing is very important, that with one crop or with one operation, we cannot sustain this economy. So that is very important, that it should have multiple operations. So robotic, the second stage robot with multiple operations should be done. And in India, we may require, even with the existing technology, my dear friends, what automation we can provide, because everything is not going to change overnight. So always we discuss at ZTM BPD how with add-on technology, add-on autonomy, we can improve the efficiency of the. We have to improve the efficiency of even cycle, and we have to improve the efficiency of robot. So from cycle to robot, there's a range of technology we have to see, and we have to basically hardly work on. And Indian Council of Agriculture Research has developed a very important project, which includes robotics, drone, and all other these cutting edge technologies. Ministry is very serious. Only yesterday, I, as a chairman of one application of drone in for nutrient application. I made a presentation before Additional Secretary and Joint Secretary. The whole team was there in MNT division. Let me tell you, I was so thrilled that whole hall said that we are for drone technology, and we will process and we will process and see that drone technology for pesticide application and drone technology for nutrient application for all other concern of
time is a bit of a time is a concern.
That all these technologies should be made economical, practical, and adaptable to different farmers, including that 86.2% small and marginal farmers also. This is in brief. Just I wanted to it's a little energize that what is the importance of the technology in an agriculture, and what is important, what is going to be the importance of your talk, my dear friends, the speakers for today. And I stop here and request Dr. Shivam or Dr. Niru to proceed further. Dr. Niru, please.
Thank you so much. Yeah, ma'am, please.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Kushwa, Dr. Indramani, for your for setting the right stage over here. And now I request Dr. Bora for his remarks, please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and our beloved farmers and students, scientists, and inventionists and entrepreneurs. I was born in a rural village in Assam in India on a farm's family. I used to do farming with bullocks driven. So at that time, I was thinking, what happens if we can use some machines? I was about 10 or 12 years old. And while passing my higher secondary, I thought I should go for engineering. The only reason that I could drive a tractor. My father couldn't have a tractor. So just to drive a tractor, I went to ag engineering. And when I graduated, I immediately got a job, and all tractors in the district was mine. And that's how I came to do my master's in Bangkok, Thailand. And forward, I did my PhD in Kansas State University. And for last 15 years, I was a teacher, researcher, and professor. Last year, I was given the chance to lead the programs in the United States Department of Agriculture, especially technology. And now I lead the program on National Robotic Initiative. That's a very important program from the White House, actually, Science and Technology Council from the White House. And because of my background, they have asked me to lead that program in USDA. And our main job is to give grants. And it so happened that just last week, we have reviewed all the programs. Proposals came from different universities in the country, and we have given 6 grants, all $1 million to the universities which have given the good proposals. So with that, the importance of robotics in agriculture is, nobody needs to say what is the importance. We are not replacing labors. We are adding profitability, treasury of the farmers, because they need something. As I said in the beginning, that we used bullock-drawn plows. Now, if the robots can draw the plow for a small farm holder, like I'm very, very aware of the land holding in India. And when we talk about that, like if I can say in rural terminology, it's 4 to 5 bighas of land. Or if I say in hectares term, 0.5 hectare, right? About that. So in comparison to that, while I work with farmers who have 10,000 acres, which is close to 5,000 hectares, which are normal farmers in US, especially if we see. And then I worked with citrus farmers in Florida, where most of the robots are used before in the tree crops and the specialty crops. And there's always saying that they are rich farmers, so they can afford it. That's not always true. If you see the farmers' plight, they are not rich. It's a global phenomena. But they do because it's a culture. And second thing is they love it. Third thing is they can do whatever they want to do. It's a business, but also the pride and satisfaction comes with it. And as a scientist, our job is to help them. And by doing that, technology is the greatest invention, as Dr. Indramani said, to help them. And robotics is one of them. In addition to robotics, now, as all knows, precision agriculture is now normal agriculture in most of the developed countries. But as I work with Southeast Asia and Central Asia and some of the African countries, technology is not yet there. The concept can be implemented by locally developed technology or locally available technology, and some of the places, including robots, because there are many, many places where we use robots as toys that can be converted into the technology for agriculture. As many of you have seen, that motorcycle has been used as a power source in farm. That's just the beginning. That innovations can be implemented if it's thought through, because the concept is important and technology can be used locally. So with that, I just want to pass this right now. Then whatever questions you have, I'll be happy to pick it up.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kumar. You have very rightly mentioned that the robotics in agriculture will not replace the labor, but it will help in reducing their drudgery, and it will help in their increasing their profitability, efficacy, efficiency. So that's the lesson, or that's the thought that we have taken from your opening remarks. And now I invite Dr. Kushwaha to moderate this session from here. Yeah, Dr. Kushwaha, please. And you may like to introduce
Madam.
other speakers.
I think our next speaker is Ajay Sharda. He is our beloved friend, and we have done some training with them, and we enjoyed that time. And Ajay Sharda received bachelor degree from Punjab Agriculture University. After that, he has visited US for postdoctoral fellowship, and he's working in the associate professor, Department of Biology and Agriculture Engineering, Kansas State University. And Sada research has a focus on development of analysis, experimental validation, and control system, especially for the agriculture machinery system, automation, sensor testing and development, and mechatronic systems, and advanced decision planting. I think he has always interest in that subject. During our previous training, he has also emphasized that, and he talking about the tech automation, other things. Okay, Dr. Sada, I welcome you and good morning, and start your talk, and we will get benefit with your talk.
Can I present a couple of slides, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
So no, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm really glad to be here. I'm glad to see some old friends and some new people I would like to connect. So now Dr. Bora has really laid the foundation along with Dr. Bhushan and everybody else. like the bigger focus in terms of robotics is not to replace people or human participation in the agricultural production system, but more importantly, just to bring more precision, access to data, and make those operations more seamless. I am part of the two ongoing National Robotics Initiative funded projects, which Dr. Bora is leading now. I'm part of one and I'm leading one as the principal investigator. So what I would like to quickly talk about is some of the scope of our project, and it will also reflect on everybody that what are some of the challenges we are facing, or when people say agriculture is a dynamic and one of the complex kind of a scenario for robotic application. So keeping in mind everybody's time and all, I'll try to be as short and brief as possible. But what we are doing is our focus is to develop an autonomous platform which can sense insects, identify them, and manage that their presence in terms of criticality and impact on yields and all that. I see this project was primarily asked for developing a platform to be applying insecticides or pesticides on certain insect. We are targeting aphids in sorghum. But if this platform is successful, we can apply, or we can do similar work in corn and other crops, including crops like small vegetable crops which are not too tall. So this platform can will really expand on that. Not only this part, but platforms like this, when they are going through the field, they will also collect very valuable information alongside using computer vision or camera systems, which these people will have. So challenge from our side, I think there is a similar challenge in India as well in terms of amount of pesticide we use and the decisions we make, without knowing which areas need applications and which do not need an application. And the kind of areas we have, which are thousands of acres, few families or few people are managing a couple of tens of thousands of acres. Like the farmers we work with here, they typically farm anywhere between 30,000-40,000 acres, and there are only 4 to 5 permanent operating people who are managing all those things. So our goal in this was to develop something which is scalable, which is modular, which has its own sensing and control aspect, and obviously the communication component to it. In this project, there are 4 major subcomponents. Number one is the computer vision, which everybody knows that for any robotic application, we have to have eyes and ears and sense and some sort of a feel in terms of where we are, what we are doing. Since this is the project which involves insect identification, so we'll have to have some sort of a imaging system, neural nets, or image analysis and all that. So that is one of the major component in that. Where we are on this is we are at this point training the data set. We have taken lots and lots of images and all the classification aspect of it. We're really hoping that next year we should be able to do something real time in the spring of 2022. Then the second important component itself is an autonomous platform as well. There are lots of components in this. So we have to have a platform. We have to have navigation and path planning component of it. You have to have a central control system, which is taking care of vehicle information coming from vehicle, but also information coming from the application system, which is our sprayer in this case. I also want to point out that we have to start working more and more on application systems, because there will be lots of companies who will be making autonomous vehicles, for integration. But having successful and practical application systems is going to be a key. The third important thing from our perspective is the smart system data acquisition and communication. So I'll talk something about where we stand. Our application system is fully done and operational. Our communication system is coming along. The other thing which I would like to emphasize is we have large equipment in US and communication and collecting data from those large equipments is already some sort of a challenge. So consider this scenario where one tractor is or one combine is operating on somewhere between 5 to 10,000 acres in a season. Now I have and I'm still having challenges in terms of managing data. Now I will have hundreds of robots working in a similar space. How do I manage data from all these platforms simultaneously, seamlessly integrate and have that data in a format that I can quickly query the information on a platform by platform basis and all that. In this component, we are partnering with the PJET on the liquid application system support. We have a support industry collaborator as Microhard systems, which are based out of Canada for all their communication products. And we are partnering with Topcon who are supporting their GNSS receivers. So the picture you're seeing here is another product coming out from our lab. This this little motherboard has GPS. It has 9x IMU. It can give feed to thermal camera in terms of GPS thing. It can simultaneously trigger any color camera. It can record data. So this becomes our one of our key components. And then there's a major aspect of entomology. So I'm going to swing by really quick, giving you glimpses, and then we can have questions if you want. A lot of things on terms of, like I said, path planning and localization is going on. And we have specific questions I can talk. This is how our platform looks like as of now. This system seems to me at this point pretty robust to go out. We've done some in lab and greenhouse studies, but this is how the structure looks like, data stacks and how everything will be communicating, especially the aspect of computer vision and all that. Quick, functionality in terms of, liquid application system. Like I said, a lot of things have been done and a lot of things are in the pipeline. You won't believe how much we learned by taking this spray for the first time in a greenhouse, that how many changes we need and how many modifications we might have to make to get our second set of tests done. So this is in place. Like I said, communication is going to be the biggest thing. We are in this year, we are planning to, do multi-agent communication and developing protocols in terms of how the data should be handled, how data packets should be handled in these large agricultural spaces. So just a glimpse of that. And then obviously, like I said, we really want to develop individual system, whether it is communication, whether it is the aspect of application system or control communication, that these systems should easily be scalable for other applications. This should not be very specific to what we are doing in this project. So it has to be generic where people can adapt and do things, beyond that point. So I'll keep it short here. And like I said, some of the people, when Ganesh was talking about small land holdings, I strongly feel that, when some people ask that these robotic systems are going to be for larger farmers, I differ. I beg to differ, because I think they can be equally beneficial for small farmers who cannot buy large equipment and smart technology in US right now because it's not viable for their kind of land holding. But they can buy a couple of small robotic systems which will be inclusive of all data collection, data assimilation. So they will have access to more information and more data layers from their own farms coming out to make smart decisions as well. So with this, I'll just stop here and let you guys take over. And I really want to, like I said, thank all our sponsors who have been very instrumental in terms of getting our project, in pace, and especially USDA and IFA. Without their support, we won't be able to do anything. I have to make some brownie points with Dr. Bora.
Good job.
Okay, thank you, Ajay. I think you have delivered a very good talk regarding the smart agriculture, smart farming, and also entomology point of view, smart spraying system. And in your last conceptual photographs and images showing that a smart drone and thus combination can be make agriculture very good for the small farmer as well as big farmer. It can accommodate in both ways. Now our next speaker is Richa, and Richa is belong from the Jammu, and she is working in the unique blend of knowledge, robotics, business efficiency, solving the unique problems, and Richa is a certified robotic programmer, and now she is the vice president of commercial business and co-founder of REInvest Robotic in Denmark. Richa, I think we will hear many things from you, and especially from the working in robotics. One Agro Robotic is very famous, and they have used the unique concept, and we are only know that one, and many things are going on in Denmark also. Okay, so Richa, now floor is you, and just give your talk.
Yeah, sure. I just quickly introduce myself. I have a long career in automation and experience both from the home automation as well as the industrial automation side. And something relevant for this forum, I am the chairman of a company called Farmroid, which is world's #1 robot when it comes to de-weeding, autonomous de-weeding and sowing in the farmlands. And what this robot basically does is free the time for farmers and substitute all the hard, repetitive work, saving cost, as well as increasing yield. Something that's very unique is that it's completely CO2 neutral operation. It is powered by solar cells, and it helps farmers save close to 500 ton of, generally 500 ton of CO2 compared to normal production. What would be interesting for you to know is that the investment and demand in farming robotics has gone for a moonshot recently, and that's because it's projected to be a 20 billion value market by 2025, according to Markets and Markets, and it has a CAGR of 34%. So we are seeing a lot of investor interest in this. But what is driving this demand when it comes to EU? There has been a significant amount of reduced access to seasonal labor, and I very well know that this is not a problem that we necessarily have in India, perhaps, but COVID-19 pandemic has been a crisis for farmers, because young people do not want to be farmers. They want to do other things. So it means that the skill shortage has affected the farms, and additionally, the climate crisis, the whole European Union, we're very cognizant of how do we sufficiently scale up food production, and how do we get additional productivity from the existing agriculture areas. And last but not least, the demand also comes from the favorable prices for the technologies such as IoT or GPS technologies. Just like Tesla, everybody knows, the improvement in the battery technology, the lithium ion, which powers them, really increase the penetration of electrical vehicles, it's a different story that they now are moving to lithium iron phosphate, which is perhaps an interesting subject for some other forum. But for farming robots, these technologies have also really contributed to the market demand. Maybe I would just sum up with saying that farming robots as such still receive a very tiny fraction of investment, which is just 3% of the whole agri-tech market. But with the increased attention from perhaps big players such as John Deere, as you might have known, last year they acquired a company called Blue River Technologies. But the reason for the acquisition, as we're talking so much about data-driven and the value creation through data, is because of the deep machine learning expertise. The robot can see, diagnose, and execute actions based on what are the symptoms that the crop is exhibiting. So I believe that this whole value creation through data collection, as many of the other speakers have also just mentioned, is going to be a significant driver of farming robots, because farming robots can become that platform that then delivers that data. So among other things, information such as plant stress, or we're talking about what is the growth rate of the crops, all these things are very exciting. And I think precision agriculture has also shown that we can increase the yield in some cases. So we are in very exciting times right now. And my deepest hope and wish for India is that we accelerate what we are doing, and we put together all our knowledge centers from all over the world, and we lead the momentum here. Thank you very much for having me in the platform.
Thank you, Richa. I think you have covered broad aspects of its commercial aspect and its popularity nowadays. But always the questions comes that how it's feasible in Indian condition. So in next, when we will discuss in the question answer, that time we will ask, certainly many questions comes regarding this. So now I can call Dr. Aneesh Chauhan. And he is from our Simla. Nowadays in summer, there is a very hot condition and very crowded nowadays. People from north, people are going to the Simla, okay? And Dr. Aneesh, he's the autonomous system from the IK. He has mastered, and PhD from the information robotics in agriculture, food robotics. And he's very expert in the vision system learning and humanoid robot drone, which could really change the growing trajectory in the food. I think he is very expert in the vision. During our one previous session, when he is our moderator, that time he is given many thoughts regarding the vision and which is useful for the agriculture. And now, Aneesh, can you give your talk related to your expertise?
Dr. Kushwaha, good to see you again. This time the tables have turned. I moderated the last session, and you presented. Well, thanks so much for inviting me, and thanks. It's a pleasure to be present on the panel. I think before, I also have some slides that I would like to show you. But before I go there, I do want to mention that being in Netherlands, one of the things that really stood out for me coming from India was I have been lucky enough to be in multiple countries across, primarily across Europe. And Netherlands was the first country where any person, or primarily most of the people that I meet, I have farming background. And that is something that has happened to me in India, where you meet either your parents or the grandparents have a farm somewhere in a village. The mobility to the cities is great, but there is a still very strong connect to the farms that we have. For let's call it a developed country, Netherlands, their connection to the land is also extremely strong. And that is one of the reasons why Wageningen has a very special place in Europe, and I think also in the world, as far as the agri-food research goes on. And recently I had a chat with one of the one of the main researchers in the agri domain here at Wageningen. So let me say, I am from a technology perspective, and it's a very interesting ecosystem when you are around the plant scientists, the food scientists, and it gives you a very different view on what technology can do, but also to understand what technology cannot do. Right. So one of the key things that he mentioned, and I think it should stay with me, but I hope it also carries on to the Indian context, is Netherlands in last, let's say, 100 years has made a tremendous jump in what they have done with technology and farming. And they say that the generation, 3 generations before, the first thing was, can we make the best use of the land? The generation after focused primarily on prediction, on production. That means, how can we increase the yield given the amount of land that we have? And that led to many technological innovations, but also from the breeding perspective, genetics perspective, et cetera, as well. Then they moved to precision agriculture. This is something already been mentioned. How can we increase the yield while we maintain the amount of resources as minimal as possible? But now we are at the next stage of this, which is, how can we do all of the previously said things, but also be sustainable? And I think that's the opportunity for India. We do not have to go through all the steps. And we have the opportunity that we reach to the final step where there is current transition in many other countries. And so I get very pleased to hear also that there is a lot of effort in investing in agriculture, and primarily robotics. And I hope not only robotics, because robotics alone is not sufficient. But investment in technologies like robotics, I think it will prepare India in next 5 years to next 10 years to be the leading country in the area, because there is necessity of technology. And if we don't invest now, we will be 10 years behind. Right. So I think we should keep the traction by making the investment. And I hope there are entrepreneurs, scientists, etc., that have taken help from that. Now, with that in mind, I will again go back to, well, let me start with the bad news here. The bad news is robotics is very hard. So let's be very clear. Robotics is very hard. And if robotics is hard, it's, I think, maybe 100 times harder when you apply it to live products. And when we talk about plants and we talk about foods, we're talking about live creatures. They change, they adapt, and to build anything that cannot deal with change, cannot deal with uncertainty, is a very difficult problem. So what's the bad news? One of the heroes of harvesting, a company called Abundant Robotics, perhaps the colleagues here from US who know them well, and from India as well. This week, it went bankrupt. It went bankrupt. It was supposed to harvest apples autonomously. And what it shows is, why does a technology like this go bankrupt? Because it's an extremely challenging problem to do that. And with that context, I must, so to frame here, what we are trying to do is great. And I think we have to ground that there are so many challenges when you work with live products. To think that you have the solution today is very bad. So if you don't invest right now, in the future, you will stay behind. Now, so I hope that doesn't well, I hope the entrepreneurs are still encouraged, because a lot of other things can be done. And I want to show you now something from the Dutch perspective, and on how Dutch are trying to address this, and what role research organizations can play. Let me share my screen. Please let me know if you can see my slides.
Yes, Aneesh.
Yes. Let me put it on presentation mode. It's visible?
Yes, no, it's
yes.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
So what Netherlands did, and it's been more than 50 years, is create a concept called golden triangle. And the idea behind the golden triangle was, how can the efforts from the government, efforts from the private industry, and efforts from the research organizations come together, but with direct impact, right? So the impact on society. And how do you do that? Impact on society, impact on my market, impact, for example, in agriculture and production. Agriculture is not the only domain, but it is one of the most important domain where the government and private industries are investing. And as part of that formula, Wageningen came to life. Well, the Wageningen has come to life almost more than 100 years. I think 2 years back, we celebrated the 100th anniversary of this organization. But it has a very funny name, which is Wageningen University and Research. And I want to give you the context behind it. So Wageningen has created an ecosystem where there are two legal entities that are joined together. There is the entity that focuses on fundamental research, because fundamental research has to be where you look forward. But there is the other entity, which is Wageningen Research. The whole goal of Wageningen Research is to bring technology to market, to help, because there is a gap between academic research and what is necessary. And that gap is not easy to build. And usually that burden lies on entrepreneurs in many other countries. And with support of the government, with support of the way the organization of Wageningen was formed, the transition of fundamental research to market has been quite successful. It's a formula that has worked for now quite some years. That brings me to my own topic. So without giving the even broader context here, is I'm part of a research team that focuses on agri-food robotics, and which, like many others mentioned, we consider them as three verticals. Verticals that help us or help robots or devices observe the scene, which we call as non-destructive sensing. We have many different types of sensing technologies. Then from those sensing technologies, you actually have to make sense. And this is where we have predictive modeling using many different types of machine learning, but also other AI approaches. And then finally is what we are addressing in this topic today, but I hope you don't consider robotics without modeling and sensing, is automation. In automation, we don't consider automation to be robotics alone. And I think this is a message I hope again drives here, is the automation comes from mechanization. It was already mentioned at the beginning of the talk, although country went through COVID times, the number of tractors that were sold still increased. India is mechanizing quickly. It's mechanizing really fast, and the rate at which, for example, tractors are penetrating the agri market, it is only going to increase in coming years. We have to see how can we further automate those solutions rather than only thinking we have to have autonomous robots on ground. Right? So in terms of automation in our group, we look at, on one hand, robots, but also on other tools that can be automated. But overall, we address almost all segments of agri-food value chain, from seedlings to production to harvesting, but a lot of things after harvest. In fact, again, I think to drive in the motivation for all the audience, India is still a very big producer of crops. It may not be the ideal producer, so the resources may not be used very well, but still it's one of the biggest producers of food in the world. But majority of that, well, actually it's not the majority, but a significant part of that food is wasted in the post-harvest processes. And how can we use the same technology that we are using for robotics on farm, et cetera, can be deployed at many different parts of the post-harvest value chain to reduce the losses. So every food that is grown and doesn't reach the plate is an extreme loss to the society. So with that, I think I'm going to show you three examples. There are quite a few examples because our group has a very long history. But perhaps the first one I want to show you is from seedlings. So one thing again, something about Netherlands is, on one hand, it grows quite a lot of food on field, but a significant part is grown in greenhouses, right? So it's not the most ideal climate for a majority of the world's crops, but they have excelled in greenhouse technology in the country. So I wanted to show you three segments of production of agri-food value chain. And this is a setup that we designed for high-speed 3D modeling and quality sorting for a private company. And all the examples that I've chosen today are mainly in interaction with the industry. That means research that is done to solve industrial problems. And several of those products eventually reach the market, thankfully. And when you talk about industry, the requirements on industry are very different than fundamental requirements. And that's why the bridge is very hard to gap between when we do fundamental research and when we want to solve a problem that requires an immediate solution. So just in this case, the work that was done by people, which was seasonal labor, which was reducing within the seedling inspection industry here, there were characteristics like we have to do the throughput of the system has to be at a certain level, otherwise it's not valuable enough. Right, so these are the kind of demands that would come, and we use in this case, multi-camera systems for quickly modeling whatever the seedling would be. This in this case, this is a tomato, and to identify on different quality characteristics, but at a speed on which the industry demands it to be productive and competitive. Another example, I'm not going to show a video of this because this is still under IP protection, is this is a US Canadian company that is interested in harvesting broccoli, but also in predicting the stage at which broccoli might be ready for investment. That means it requires, and what they wanted to do is use their current tractor systems and modify them, right? So we don't have to look at robots as what they're portrayed in movies. You can take a tool that you may have on field and you can convert them. So the whole system, from control systems to imaging to machine learning, and then to actual physical actuation. The robots are nothing without the actuation itself, the harvesting task. That is done, and the project itself was successful, and now we are working with the company to commercialize this. But I don't only want to give you an example from the ideas that reached to the market, but I also want to give you an example, the ideas that didn't reach to the market. And this, can you tell me if you hear the sounds when I play the video?
Yes, you can play, but okay. Sound is not audible. Okay. There is no sound.
Okay, so maybe you can see the video in the background.
Play the video, we can.
So maybe I will give you context before while I play this video. So this was a project where multiple countries in Europe came together, including several private companies, to harvest sweet pepper in greenhouses. These are wire crops. The robot is supposed to be autonomous and has to go and pick the fruit. The autonomy within greenhouses is a simpler task than on fields because it's highly structured. But crop, that is not something that you can control. Crop still remains extremely complex. So the ambition of the project was that we'll build a robot, there will be a robotic arm, there will be certain type of gripping technology that we'll use to harvest. And I think first part of the video will show that. And then I want to talk about why it is not commercial today. This is the only example of an autonomous robot for harvesting for last 2.5 years now. So it is a great achievement, at least from our perspective, but I think it's a valuable lesson why it doesn't work. Why is it not commercial? Oh, sorry. So it classifies on in the state at which the fruit is mature and detects it, actuates the robot arm, reach to the fruit and harvests it. The whole hardware, including the gripper solution, was developed autonomously. So you don't use anything that is commercially available. Now, if I hope you saw the last part and see the action that the robot takes to harvest. Sorry, it keeps going to the next slide. And so what the robot does, it has an inbuilt in commercially, you will use a scissor to harvest this. So what people would do. So what the robot does is there's a vibrating saw. It goes to the peduncle, which is the top of the pepper. It cuts it and it drops into safely into the, let's call it the hand of the gripper. And then you put it in the post-harvest bucket. So what is wrong with that? Nothing is wrong with that, but you will not always have a pepper that is so cleanly looking that there is a peduncle highly visible and there is no other leaf or plant part that is hiding the fruit. There are no clusters of fruit together. What do you do with that? Without solving those challenges, this robot is not useful. It could harvest in a commercial crop approximately 40%. Now, why would a farmer invest in a device that could do 40% of the work, right? Doesn't make sense. So some of the conclusions that came out of it is that we have to look at the larger context. We should not just look at the robots themselves as the device and what they can do. We have to look at the larger context in which they work. The change has to come not just from the technology, but also from the farming side. Some changes, so small changes to the way farming is done for these crops could immediately increase the productivity of this robot to 60%, right? So some of the key questions that came out of it, how do we find a common ground between the technology developers, for example, roboticists, and the farmers who want to use it? Is there a common place where we can come together, where the robots are more productive, right? But the farms are not the same as they are because they were built for people. I think those are the messages I want to leave with for today. I think I've taken sufficient time. Many thanks for giving me the platform to talk about this. I hope some of these things were new to you.
Okay, thank you, Aneesh. I think you have covered many things in this your slides and presentation, and specific problem for the academic research and the field orientation with the industry linkage. I think many things you have covered in that. The problem always come of its effectiveness in 40% of harvesting you are saying, but in future if you advancement that will come about 90 and 95%. Now we come to the Manohar. He's also in the working on the picking section of the cotton. Manohar is the farmer. He's a unique blender. He is a farmer and he has worked in the senior director in Broadcom India Research Limited. And after that, he has left the job and founded a robotic company, that is the Green Robot Machinery Private Limited. And he has developed some plugging system in that that is unique, and he has also developed one robot, and we can say that he is the first robot he had developed, and he has given to one university in India, and that is they are testing it and they have purchased that one. We can listen Manohar Sundaram. Okay, Manohar, I think he is ready for that some presentation. Manohar, okay, welcome. You are mute. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Kushwaha. So I will just have a few slides, 4 or 5 slides, and we'll quickly go to it.
Okay.
So just to quickly get into the topic, I just want to say farming 4.0 was mentioned. So my reading of farming 4.0 is that it is precision agriculture, where we are essentially looking at mechanisms or means of improving productivity, quality, profitability, and resource efficiency using technology, but all of us have spoken about, right? Collecting data and analyzing and doing effective action, and robotic is one means of one of the fundamental means of getting there. Let me go into what robotics in India, as far as I know, there's very little of this is happening for a country, a large country like India. But I know Mahindra and Cafe has a good amount of R&D effort on, especially on grape and tea harvesting. They're not been making public. I don't think they have a solution, but Mahindra, I know they've been working with a lot of universities, at least on the grape. And Cafe is working on some tea harvesting missions, specifically the tea picking mission. My company, Robomac, the short form from Green Robo Mission, we are specifically doing only a cotton picker. I'm a farmer. I'm solving my own problem. I lost 25 acres of my crop, and I thought I should solve that, and that's what I'm doing now. Tata Sense is one other company doing precision weeding. They have been gone from precision spraying to precision mechanical weeding. They are one of the good funded company in Indian context on Agri Robotics. Suryan Innovatives is doing it's a commissioned project for tea harvesting. They have been doing a good job, and these are the 3 or 4 organizations I know of in the pre-harvest or in the farming mechanization itself. The other companies I know, Sickle Innovations, Zentron, and Intolabs, are mostly in post-harvest, essentially grading and sorting. There are a lot of universities and students working on many of the solutions. Like NAHP is working on trying to adopt some of this technology in their agri universities, but there is not much commercial activity otherwise. As far as I know, there may be some companies still working in the background, which is not yet public. I just want to get into a little bit of what I am trying to do more from a technology and what is the need. I'm on cotton farming, and why am I doing it? The cotton is, I lost my 25-acre crop. That's my fundamental reason why I'm doing it. But if you look at India as a land, we are a land of cotton, 12 million hectares. 1/3 of the world of cotton is in India. And we are the largest producer of cotton in the world, but our yield is half the world's average. China produces 3 times per acre yield, and Australia is 7 times our yield, right? And if you look cotton as a crop, it's as an economic sense, it employs 16 million people in the textile industry and around, and out of them 60 lakhs are the farmers. And the important fact is that it's a very prospective crop because only 20% of the world fiber textile is using cotton. 80% is actually synthetic. So if you can increase productivity, there's huge benefit. Cotton is a good crop for the farmer economically. I am a paddy and a cotton farmer. I know I get 3 times my return on cotton is 3 times than paddy. And we don't need a lot of water, 1/5 of paddy water, and a lot of sunlight. India is a lot of country of sunlight. So there's a lot of reasons to solve this problem, but we see a lot of farming again in the farm, and much of it is to do with our practices. So what is the problem we have, and what decides the yield of cotton? Government of India, CACR, Central Institute of Cotton Research, has been having a roadmap to improve the yield to 1,000 kgs, and they have come up with a list of things. And much of it is just good agriculture practices. And every farming activity requires intervention, timely intervention, and precise intervention. And that's the only way to get yield. For some examples I'm giving here is, if you look at a cotton plant, you need to have only 1 plant per pit. But as a farmer, we do 2 seeds just to de-risk the germination. Right? What is the technology we can use? There is obviously a thinning. Someone mentioned about Blue River. Blue River as a company did only a thinning solution, right? We need something like that. Or transplanting is a lot better solution. Everybody knows transplanting is a better solution than direct seeding. But can I do transplanting in cotton? Yes, there is there are people in ICAR who has done this and proven that more than 25% yield has come through transplant, but that's a very difficult job to do now. But it can be done if someone can take it up. First 65 days of cotton is essentially very important from weed and nutrition management. Weed is a huge pest in all senses. It invites pests and takes away all the nutrition out of the plant. So if you don't manage it, whatever you do after the 65 days probably doesn't give you as much return you can. And another important recommendation is what's called a stopping. None of us do in the cotton, at least. We just need to nip off the vegetative growth after the 21st node. And this is a very simple task. Simple task for a human to do, but it's a lot more precision to do it. If I can do it, we simply can get a 20% yield. And last but not least is the pest management. Pest management is simply said, it's not so easy, right? It's not so easy to manage the pests. There are hundreds of pests there, and knowing what exactly is a pest and doing the right management for that is very, very difficult. And if you have a large farm or even a small farm, last week I had a mealy bug. By the time I realized that it's a mealy bug, I think some 5% of my crop is gone, right? So if I had some better solution, and that needs a good scouting, scouting and then identifying them. So that is very, very important. So can I do that? Yes, we can if you have a good solution. As a company, I'm only solving harvesting. What am I doing? I'm trying to solve the harvesting problem because it's the peak time labor. But much of whatever I'm talking about here can be easily automated. I just want to just quickly go through it, but not. We have a precision harvester. It's what I'm showing here is a two-arm precision harvester. A machine is actually an autonomous picking solution. The solution is picking is completely autonomous, just the way humans pick. And the reason for us to doing this is we can do multi-bloom cotton. The John Deere's of the world can do only single bloom or synchronous bloom, and we don't need to change any agronomy practice. Yes, if we do change agronomy, it can be a lot better, but we don't need to do any agronomy. We use 3D vision and robotic arms, many of you, and it's an electrically operated machine. The reason I'm doing it is it does the job of a five people with a single operator. It's an electrically operated machine. There is a video here if you want to look at it later. So what is the challenge really we have? Many of the speakers here talked about it. The solution cannot be a single point solution, right? As a farmer, I wouldn't want to buy my machine will never sell to a farmer, definitely, because it's a single point solution. If you take cotton as 150 days crop, the picking happens only 3 or 4 times during the season, but in the last 60 days, and that's around 10 days. And if you know, farmers can buy that and keep it, right? So if I can manage other tasks like seeding, weeding, and picking, then that's a lot of value. Dr. Aneesh was mentioning about it. It has to be end-to-end complete solution. Otherwise, I don't think this is ever going to be, robotics is never going to be making impact in the real farmers, right? The other thing is initial cost and technology risk is very high. I don't think the farmers should be bearing that cost. There has to be others in the stakeholder who can manage it. And in the Indian context, that's been a big challenge. But for example, I mentioned this ELS cotton here. ELS cotton, ELS is excellent stable. We, as a country, though we are the largest producer of cotton, we actually import 5 lakh bales of this cotton from the West. Just because we can't grow it here, not that we can't grow it, but farmers don't want to grow it because it's very difficult to get any return. But government is subsidizing this import, and I as a farmer can grow it, but it's very difficult to harvest it, and it is a very risky crop compared to the rest of the hybrids we have. So the stakeholders has to be funding this kind of technology, not the farmers. Farmers is never going to be funded. That's a fundamental problem we have. The other important thing is, I think we as a technologist try to sell technology, not really solution. The solution has to be very, very robust, at least in Indian farming condition. I can't even buy a V-belt for my tiller. I don't know how I can support my robotic arm in my field. And the infrastructure and the technology skills required to support this kind of machines are going to be a big challenge. So we are, though I think the solutions will come, I think the solutions are going to be more adopted by what I would say the corporate farms or seed producers and those kind of people who can afford it at the initial stage. So the other problem is, biggest problem I see is the business model. farmers will not pay. It has to be paid. There is opportunities to do what is called as rental model. EM3 is doing that. I don't know how successful they are, but it is a big problem. My suggestion here is only adopt high value crops like ELS cotton or tea garden is trying for this kind of solution. Do adopt there and then come to other crops. Or government is recommending what's called the farm cluster for specific crops where economy of scale can happen. So that's my take of this. Yes, technology is there. People are building it, but it is going to take a lot of time. I don't know whether you all know, Abundant Robotics has a closed shop. There's an extremely good company on apple picking. They've been doing exactly more or less what I am doing as a technology. But even though they got some good amount of investment, they decided to close because they seem to be not viable as a business. So that was sad part. But I think the business model and those kind of things are going to be the biggest challenge as I speak now. But technology, in my point of view, is there as long as someone is willing to fund and take it through as a product line. I am very focused on cotton. I believe it will be what I am doing. I'm adding the seeding, weeding, and seeding into the solution so that it can become a lot more viable product and targeting the seed producers of the world in the Indian context to buy that mission. So that's my input. Thanks for your inviting me. And
thank you, Manohar. I think you have given good talk about this real-time development, and I think we miss your video, and
yeah, I was
okay, no problem. But okay, now we have many questions, and we can discuss one by one. And before that, if Dr. Indramani Mr. Sir want to say in all lecture presentation,
Dr. Kushwaha and
yes,
friends and wonderful speakers. It was blend of experiences coming from different parts of the world and different level of workers, young to middle age to very senior people, and co-researchers to farmers. So wonderful experience. And my submission would be when we talk about relevance of drone technology. We should not focus that it is useful in India or not, because many things we are making equipment and manufacturing equipment. They are being sold in Africa, in different parts of the world. We are manufacturing tractors. They are being sold in different parts of the world. So similarly, we have to think about robotics. So if we are taking, and as I said that there has been call from the top of the executive of the country that India should become hub of innovation, research and development, manufacturing, and finally providing the technology to youth. As it was mentioned by Richa, that many young people are not interested in agriculture. This country is also facing this problem of attracting people towards agriculture. World as a whole is facing. In Japan, 80% farmers are. It is said that 80% farmers are more than 80 years of age. So these challenges. So this, as it was mentioned by Dr. Bora and others, that drudgery removal and bringing uniformity, bringing autonomous functioning of the machines is very, very important. So what we have to think, we have to go ahead with robotics in agriculture, in other operations in a big way. Second, we have to identify which operations, which crops. So that is another aspect. And if I'm talking which operations, that means those operations which are frequently done, those operations which are otherwise hazardous, those operations which are more arduous. Those should be there. We should bring robotics quickly. and another thing which I was mentioning, that making it multifunctional, so that for all these agro machinery, the challenge is year-round work should be there. It's not like that you work for 2 months and park it, and then after 1 year you again open it. So this is one, in as I mentioned, that in ministry took up the drone technology, and they said no, we will not go only for pesticide application until and unless you develop SOPs and technologies for nutrient application. So that it should not limited to pesticide only. It should be open to growth hormones and all different of nano fertilizer, organic fertilizer, biofertilizer, all in. So this is what we have to think about robot also. Once from this domain, research domains, it goes to the government. Government again will say that if we are going to popularize it, tell me where is how many hours of work in a year you are having for your robot technology. Yes. So for that research at this stage, development at this stage, from my friends here in India and abroad, that input is required, and most important, where from I started this portion of my talk, that don't think that all robots which we are going to manufacture in India will be consumed in India. They may go to other countries, and there will be, you can earn foreign exchange, and for many technologies, my dear friends, we are manufacturing in India because we are facilitating in better way. We have made a kind of culture where you can produce manufacture the technology at relatively less cost. So that those ambience should also be harvested, and at the same time, the government of India has created this ambience of particularly startups and entrepreneurship. So this should be added to this opportunity, and I personally see a good future of robot in agriculture and robotics. This concept as a whole, and let me tell you, as it was mentioned by the second speaker, don't think about production technology only. Processing, storage, and all places, we have to find out use of drone. So we have to make drone multitask. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Now we have a question from the audience, that yes, sir, and he is asking about the where our small farmer in India is using robotics technology. I think this question asked for the Dr. Bora, but we can also say that there is no robots in the small farms nowadays. But Dr. Bora, because specifically they have given your name, have you any idea?
Manohar,
I don't have any particular example where in India, small farms, they're using it.
It is not using, sir.
As Mr. Manoharan was saying, it's in the tea sectors they are using it, but
yes, that is
so Dr. Bora, there is the Tata Sense mission for weeding has been used by a set of farmers, but these are all early stage adopters. Of course, they're not going to pay, or they're figuring out how to pay, but there are, as a farmer, I am a farmer, I would adopt, I will use it if the solution is good. So there, in cotton, definitely weeding is an important thing. There are farmers who are using it. But all my comments are based on, will it go for a large scale adoption? It is going to take a lot of time. But yes, there are farmers using it now. Okay. My mission has been deployed in few farms, but that's more of an experiment.
Thank you.
I have just
I may give some perspective of a small farmer from Japan. In Sapporo, we are working with the embassy and foreign agriculture service in the US. They have 0.5 hectares. And as Dr. Indramani said, 80% are old farmers. So they are trying to attract young guys with technology. Robotics is one of them. And USDA is working in Sapporo with the embassy how to encourage young farmers.
Yes.
And they are using now robots, drones, and as you might say, like ground robots as well as drones so that they can get all the information, and it's not costly. It's affordable, but again, economic condition of Japan is very different from India. But in India also, there are some farmers who can afford it. I would
Thank you,
not say
sir.
that everybody can afford it, but they're possible for
Yes.
small farmers.
Thank you, sir. I think you are saying that the old farmers are trying to adopt new technology of the robotics in Japan. Same condition in India. Farmers nowadays who had age of 40 or 50, and in after 20 years or 30 years, they can't able to do what they are practicing nowadays. But their next generation, if you are providing a new solution with the skill level required, because this farmer, this level of farmer, they didn't have the skill level, but in our future farmer, if they have the skill level, they have the comfort, then we can provide the technology, and whatever we are talking, that is for the futuristic technology. For the small as well as large farmer in India, it can be possible to adopt. Okay, again, one question.
Yeah,
Yes.
on those alignments, sir, I have a question from a couple of participants to Dr. Bora as well.
Okay.
Dr. Bora, since he's an expert of citrus, so on the citrus particularly, I believe Dr. Mani from Texas into US citrus industry is working a lot. And on those lines, actually, sir, on citrus production and when the very high density of canopy is there, how the robotics management take care of, machine learning and vision has to be taken care of, because many deep canopies there and then fruit is behind the canopy. So there are a couple of autonomous robots which are not able to, identify the crops and fruits behind the canopy. So what are your suggestions on those particular line? Yes, sir.
The different aspects. So let's start with the harvesting. And with as we have seen, Dr. Aneesh was telling, like image processing by lights and the colors, and also overlapping by the shape and size, and also kind of if you can put different cameras. There has been work with so at different spectras for image processing. So you have to fine tune, and again that is more complex than normal if you can do it in lab. And that has been done in citrus in Florida. I worked there 3 years, and they've done mostly for harvesting. That was the beginning. Then for sorting in the post-harvest processing, that's a little bit easier because you're just looking into overlaps and shape and size. That's a little bit easier than harvesting. So it has to be multiple colors. It's not only and different spectra. You can use hyperspectra and multispectra together, including shape and size.
Thank you, sir.
Okay,
And the
thank you.
same question.
I think Anish.
Anish ji, yeah, there is a question for Mr. Anish. Same alignment question is there actually. Robots are very much stubborn and they are very much inflexible with the human sensitivity, and plant are really very fragile in nature. They are very much, nurtured and to be very much taken care of. So what do you say, Anish ji, ki how this stubbornness nature of the robot and the fragile nature of the plant, perfect marriage has to be there. So what are your comments? Because plucking a fruit which is very much, sensitive to the punch or the press and all those things. So what are your comments?
Well, I think I'll try to give at least 2 comments, if not 3.
Yeah, please.
First of all, robots are not static beings. The whole idea behind robotics is how to deal with uncertainty. That's the motivation behind robotics, and all the research that is done on robotics is to deal with uncertainty. It just turns out that working with live beings, the complexity of the problem becomes massive. That means the number of uncertainties expand dramatically, right? Now, just to talk about, for example, gripping. Let's say you take a type of a gripper is also called a manipulator. You take a type of a manipulator for handling apples. Right? So Apple is one of the areas across the world, many companies are trying to harvest apples and research institutes, etc. But you can't use the same technology, for example, for strawberries. You have to find a different type of solution, right? So it can range from many, many different perspectives. But also, and this is something that not a lot of research institutes, I'm talking really from a research perspective because of my lack of background in entrepreneurship of that. We try to understand what happens when we manipulate a certain object like a fruit, and what consequences does that have? For example, does it damage it? Is it soft enough? Is it the right way to pick it? How do you deal with complex scenarios? Like you mentioned about the canopies, is it okay to have a single robotic arm, or shall we use multiple arms? Because as people, we move things to the side, right? So there are a lot of open questions, because the complexity that nature comes up with is usually a lot more than what the robots, even though designed to handle uncertainty, can handle at this moment. So I think on one hand, we have to work to reduce the complexity from the plants themselves. On the other hand, we have to mature our robotics, perception, sensing technologies, etc., etc.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Anish.
Thank you, Anish. I think, Shivam, one question from the mostly asked by the people when we are working on the robotics in Indian scenario, that 80% farmers are small and marginal in India. How robotics and automation technology will be useful for them? And are this technology is only for big farmers? That is the question from the Vithal Kulatle, Dr. Vithal Kulatle. So I think most experience our Ganesh for herself, and how you can
in reality, robotics are actually for small farmers because they do not have laborers, they do not have big machinery. So robots are kind of not mass harvester or mass producer. These are for small producers. That's a theoretical background. The next is affordability. As he said, like 80%, or when he said big farmers, that means affordability is less. Small farmers means they are kind of, they cannot afford this highly capital cost. So that there comes policy and credit availability. If the government and research institutes, ICAR especially, as they are doing, like they are making credits or funding available, and if those people like Mr. Manohar can help in developing specific crops or specific operations, that's what we need the beginning, right? It's again, big farmers have money, they can develop, they can do research, they have their own facilities, they will do it, but mostly mechanical machines can help them. But the small farmers needs the most technology so that they can produce without any extra labor and kind of very quickly so that they can be competitive with big guys. And again, the capital is important, and there the government policy can help them.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes.
All these technologies, my dear friends, will be practical. They will be used through custom hiring. It is not necessarily necessary for individual farmers, if it is smaller marginal farmers, to own the technology. He has to use the technology. So please remember, the farmers, you look at it, small and marginal farmers, as user of the technology. Ultimately, technology should be used. Owning is not necessary. You don't own car, you use Ola and Uber. So similarly, you don't own tractor. You don't, even we encourage that, please don't own tractor. So use it on custom hiring. And we are going to have 10,000 FPOs, and see the latest development in the country is to invest in agriculture. So robot is, try to find out a space for robot in agricultural system. And any technology is not panacea of all the problems. Please don't look at it. It will solve all problems. And since it does not solve all the problems, then for that reason, you don't start using it. So think like that. And government mood is also in the same line, that wherever it's possible, please start it. Start from somewhere. And that's what we are discussing here.
Thank you, sir. I think the next question from the
Yes, Dr.
Sharda.
Kushwa, I have, yeah. There's a question. The interesting part is, you have an innovation, but the innovation needs some of the funding, some of the consultation, and some of the support from the corporate hubs, robotic hubs, we call it. And on the alignment of the same thing, we have a question from Ms. Richa. So Ms. Richa is working with REInvested Robotics. And this particular consulting firm is a unique combination of, working with industry, manufacturing, robotic hubs, academic, universities, investors and all those things are to be aligned. So Richa, could you please share your thoughts on this, how your consultation and your investment into a great robotic company you mentioned about FarmDroid. So how this particularly alignment is taken care of? If you can just put your lights on those particular thoughts.
Yeah, at least here in Denmark, we also have sort of a triad of the ecosystem where companies, government, and universities work together. So that's something that's perhaps is different and very well connected. And REInvest Robotics as an investor believes that technology should be democratized, especially robotics should be democratized. So we believe that robotics should not be something, in case of farming, only for the big farmers. That's why also FarmDroid, the company that I mentioned, that we have, the robot actually de-weeds crops that are only the farm that's only 20 hectares. So it is for the small farmers. It's a different thing whether the price sensitivity might be there, but I really like what another speaker said, that it's not about owning the technology, it's about using the technology. So that's really a perfect fit. If there is interest, I would like to very much quickly show a video of this robot, which is actually tilling a small farm, which drives home the point that robotics does not need to be for big farmers. I promise that to be quick. Just share my screen. Please let me know if you can see it. Okay. So you should be able to see my presentation now. So I'll just jump to the video and here it is. So you can see the robot is actually doing intra-row weeding, and it's a farm that has only 20 hectares. Using the remote monitoring system in the robot, the farmer, whether they're sitting in their home or wherever else, they can use the robot. And I have personally met many women farmers here in Europe that can use the robot. And that is because of the ease of use of the robot. And it's completely CO2 neutral, like I said earlier, which I have to chuckingly say this, it's not often so much sunshine here in many parts of Northern Europe as much as it is there in India. So that could also be, another useful addition for the Indian market. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, thank you, Richa, for that particular insight. Now we have a very quick question from Sharda sir. Sharda sir, your research, you are first of all an ex-PU, you understand a complete agriculture ecosystem of India, the problem faced by the Indian farmers. So your research is totally inclined towards thermal infrared imaging system, you call it TIRIS, and you are towards spatial and temporal irrigation systems. So do you think these type of high-end technologies are applicable to Indian farms where the land size is an issue, and then deployment of all these technologies are very much in less number? Your comments, sir.
Yeah, I think a lot of people who have been talking about either robotics or automation things, I think all of those things are, what I think is they are all scale independent. They are not that it is, for large or small farmers. The beauty of some of these technologies is for us to understand, how to manage variability. We are drifting from, the topic we're discussing in terms of, so crop variability, soil variability, identification of diseases before we can have visual symptoms on them, nutrient variability aspect of on a spatial scale. So I totally believe that some of these things are, from my perspective, and I think from an India perspective as well, they are not, they are still inexpensive. They are not very expensive to bring it on. But I think we have to bring that into picture. As a quick example, we've always seen how we used to irrigate the fields, right? I think in the past 10 years or 12 years, the laser land levelers and people's interest in that has really changed the scenario. But I think if you just look at the amount of irrigation water we use and how we use it, this small intervention can be huge in terms of guiding people in terms of how they use those technologies. I quickly, if you give me another 30 seconds, I think from a robotic standpoint, a lot of people have been talking about end-to-end solutions, and I think this is very important. I think Ms. Manohar was talking about how the viability aspect of it. So farmers are going to adopt all those things. I think some of the other aspects which we haven't talked about is the aspect of logistics, because we won't be managing a single platform. We'll be managing, tens of those platforms. So how do we bring those things to one farm and take it from one farm to the other farm? That is the one aspect which is very, very critical. And then seamless operation. If you have one equipment, those things, they go down all the time. There are technology issues. So how do we keep them running? The prognostics aspect of it, diagnostic aspect of it, and obviously the management component of it. In talking about cotton, harvesting and all that, managing multiple platforms in terms of harvest and all that. So there are quickly want to say there are lots of other dynamics for seamless operation. The last important thing is the timeliness, right? So if a farmer is using a 120-foot sprayer and I can apply a couple of 100 acres within a couple of hours, I have to have an equivalent technology which can do that task. If it cannot do it, farmers are going to be very hard pressed to motivate to even look at that technology. So our systems should be somewhat equivalent, and they should be able to take the whole responsibility for us to go in. And we have to be very cautious, like Aneesh was saying. We just cannot be loose on pushing a product which can take away the confidence of people in terms of adoption. So those systems have to be really robust end to end. So.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ajay. Now I think we have got many information, many technology, many things we have learned with each other, and our audience also learned many things. Now I invite Dr. Indramani ma'am to conclude this one and take the water chain.
Thank you. Pushpa, it was really a very interesting session. So I would like to add, that we were saying what is going on in India. So because we take care of the startup ecosystem in agriculture in India, because ICAR-IARI scheme was being launched in 2018, and this is the third year. And every year we evaluate around 7,000 applications, and we have 29 incubation centers in 23 states. So basically we were covering on a pan-India basis. And every year, around 10% of the startups got incubation. Around 700 or startups are being incubated at different centers, and around 430 or 450, around 400 to 450 startups are getting the grants, that to the tune of 5 lakhs to 25 lakhs. So now what is the spread? Means how, if we talk about the entrepreneurial demographic. So they are the young entrepreneurs of 28 years of age and having experience around 5 to 6 years of working experience, and they are highly educated, professionally qualified. And the interesting part is 82% of the founders are from non-agriculture background. That's the challenge for us because they are interested, they want to invest time and energy and their skill set in agriculture, but they do not have the domain knowledge. Here, the role of the research institutions and the colleagues like Dr. Kushwa, Dr. Indramani, and all of you, that plays a very important role. Okay, so if I talk about the kind of application that we are having and what we are evaluating, so basically there is always an way. So because we are evaluating these kind of applications since 2016. So initially we were getting about every third application was ICT. Now from last 2-3 years, we are getting a lot of application in precision agriculture. And we have incubated a lot of entrepreneurs in precision agriculture as well. So as Dr. Manohar was mentioning, the grading and sorting solutions. So all the three they are from the RKY Raftar scheme. Intalo Labs, Sickle Innovation, and Gentron Labs. They have been incubated under our scheme, and they are really, really great. So I'm really very happy to see that. And in fact, the R&D institutions are really playing a very important role, and IRI being a premier institution and having this kind of skill set, because we are having deep tech technologies and very good drone robotics and even the spectral hyperspectral images analysis kind of and structure and the skill set. So that's why I was just remembering when I concluded the first contract research program with Mahindra and Mahindra, the kind of that has been mentioned by Manohar here, grape sorting systems. And so I know when I was talking with their legal, and then so we were saying what you will do. We helped them. In fact, we equipped them how to plan their project and how to take the photographs, how to take the data. And then we analyzed the data and we have the algorithms. So in fact, the kind of trend that we are talking about in abroad, so that is also taking shape in India. So because the government is helping and they are giving the policy support, R&D is having their own skill set and they have their own skill set, but now they are open to talk with the corporates. And at the same time, corporates are also, they have also showed willingness to have hand in hand with the academia, because now both the sides are recognizing the strength of each other. We know that we cannot scale up. Our technology will be on shelf only if we do not have the corporates with us. So that's the change. That's the scenario change in India. But at the same time, I'm talking that we have invested in a lot of precision agriculture technologies, including drones, including robotics. When we evaluate, because Dr. Indramani is an evaluator with me, and some of the corporates are also plays an important role as an evaluator with us. So when we see these youngsters, so they are at a very nascent stage, and we see, but we invest them because it is a need of the hour. If we will not invest today, so we'll be lacking. Means we will be behind a decade. We will miss this tech decade. So that's the whole scenario. But at the same time, we help them, these youngsters, to understand the agriculture domain, agriculture practicality, what will be the customer, how the customer will behave, what will be the diffusion, what will be the adoption, and how the technology will behave in agriculture. So that is also very important aspect, because we know they make the sensor, but they do not understand how the soil will behave, what is the soil. So how they can make the sensor if they do not understand the soil properties. But their skill set is in making the sensors, but their skill set is not in understanding the soil nature and soil complexity and how to deal with that. So that's that's the place where we play an important role. So with this note, I really very thankful to all of you. We learned a lot. And these are the futuristic technology, but at the same time, if we are not going to invest today, so we will be behind. And it is a time where we should have, very rightly mentioned by Dr. Aneesh, that it is the time where India should combine all these: best use of the land, best use of the resources, increased production, having the profitability, efficiency, efficacy, and sustainable agriculture. That will come through the technological agriculture. If we can integrate the technology in our agriculture system, then we can have the young mind, bright mind in agriculture. And when we are facing and we are saying that youngsters are not coming to the agriculture, then it will be their space to work in agriculture. As we see, the data shows that 82% founders are from non-agriculture background. So I have the startups from IITs or IIMs, even from the Indian diaspora at abroad. So sometimes it's amazing to have the video conferencing or the Zoom calls sitting in Denmark or in US. So these startups, they apply in our program, and because they are the Indian founders. So with this note, I'm really very thankful to all of you that you came here, you took your time, and you could present your expertise, and that's how we can see where the technology is going, where the world is going, and what should be our path. Like Dr. Sharda has very openly discussed their plan and strategy, and very beautifully mentioned that these technologies, these robots will be for the small farmers. So, and Dr. Indramani has very rightly mentioned that the procedure, that the contract hiring centers will be the next stage where we can reduce, where we can have the, with this kind of mechanism, we can afford this kind of technology. So these are the solution. If we have technology, we can find the business models, we can find the solutions, we can find the ways how they can be implemented. But at the same time, technologies are at the nascent stage, so they will take their own time because the problems are very complex and massive, because we are playing with the nature. So to play with the nature, you have to be with the nature. So that's the trick, because the nature gives you the clue how to solve the nature. So that's how, with these words, once again, thank you thank you all the speakers and distinguished guests and all the participants. I'm hopeful that everyone could learn from this and they can make up their mind to take this mission forward. Because this era is the youngster era, because we are the young nation, we have the we are the youngest country in the world. So now the baton is with your in your hands. We are here to support you. Thank you.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone, and namaste from India.
Namaskar.
Thank you
Thank
very
you so
much.
much. And namaste.
It does not
Goodbye.
have good.
Namaste. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.